The meeting of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It is Wednesday, June 26th. We're at the Charlton Middle School, and it is 7 p.m. We'll all stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we started the meeting, but we'll have a little recess, okay, to eat. We are celebrating Dr. Nash. Dr. Nash, it was our pleasure to work with you all this year.
Thank you very much.
We have sandwiches and a cake.
I've been celebrating all week. That's all I've been doing is eating.
Yeah, speech.
No, I'm not ever good at saying goodbye, other than to say, really, I've really enjoyed working in this district for this year. You never know what to expect when you come into a district, and you hope that you can make, some difference in a short period of time. Hopefully, I did some things that just puts the district in a better place as we move forward. But I can tell you, I was saying this today to my colleagues at a Schweck meeting, the area superintendents, and they asked, how I felt, and I said, the last year has really flown by. That's amazing when you think about it. Here we were last year, I was just thinking, oh boy, I'm going to do another year of driving, and then it really, and I think it's a testament to how busy we were. There isn't a person here I haven't worked with in some capacity on some committee. And I really, really commend the work that you people have done, the dedication, because I've worked with a lot of committees and you don't always see that. And everyone has put the effort in to improve the district, no matter what capacity you're in. And that, to me, makes my job so much easier, to work with people who really care about what happens to a school district, and and are in it for the right reasons, and all of you were. So you really have made my year not too difficult at all. So thank you so much.
And thank you for.
Oh, please, I'm not. No.
Thank you for contributing.
Yeah.
With all of us to make this district a better.
Yeah, it is.
district.
We're ready to go, right?
I just want to add, we had these late meetings and stuff, you never felt like rushed to get out the door. You had an hour and a half ride home. It was bad enough for our 15 minutes. You never tried to rush it. You covered what you were supposed to do rather than cut corners.
Yeah.
It was appreciated.
Thank you.
So we have approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting, Tuesday, June 11th.
Second.
Discussion?
I just had one.
Okay. Jane?
Emma, in the first page, under student spotlight, students and their subjects were Emma, Roma, comma, Mary Curry, but I think it's supposed to be as. I know that's a little thing, but
That's good.
I thought when we made a visit, didn't you?
I was like, wait a minute.
When we came, dropped in.
Anyone
I
else?
have one
Okay.
correction. Page 7, consideration for request to first-time use facilities. I know we talked about it, and then the motion was withdrawn by Mrs. Kabbalah and Mrs. Terry, but it doesn't show the new motion that we approved it contingent on the fee. Is that the way I remember it?
The bottom line. Read the bottom
But
line.
that's talking about Worcester County field hockey. Aren't we talking about the other motion should be in there for the Shepherd Hill trip?
Well, this isn't about the trip. This is the
That's-
first time using
yeah.
facilities. The trip was above under H.
Under H?
H is the trip for the course.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, but we did that too
We
with
did.
the
Yeah,
trip.
yeah, but
No,
Yeah.
that's my mistake.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? All right, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our executive session of Tuesday, June 11th.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Approval of the warrants. We do have warrants this evening. That'll make its way around the table and to sign. Okay, citizens forum. No one's here. Karen, do you want to say anything?
Please say something.
Communications, Dr. Nash, do you have any?
Yes,
this
I do.
evening? Okay.
All right, I have 3 retirements to announce. So the first one is, Dear Dr. Nash, I'm writing this letter to make you aware of my intention to retire as an art teacher in Dudley-Charlton at the end of the next school year, in June of 2020. As I write this letter, I have opened a floodgate of emotions and memories. I began my teaching career here in Dudley-Charlton nearly 40 years ago as a 21-year-old right out of college. I have been teaching here ever since, surviving budget cuts, Prop 2.5, and returning to continue my career after the births of my 3 beloved children. In addition to my own children, I've also dedicated these last 39-plus years to my second family, the children of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District. I've experienced the indescribable joy of establishing second-generation relationships, talking with students about what it was like to have their parents as students. This never made me feel old, but on the contrary, it made me feel like I truly belonged. So it is with some sadness that I have reached this decision, but I feel in my heart that a 40-year teaching career is one that I can move on from with a great deal of pride and sense of accomplishment. I know it will be emotional and difficult to say goodbye to the schools that have become my second home and the people who have been my second family for more than half of my life. Thank you, sincerely, Cynthia Rawson. So. And I have 2 more retirements, and while these are not retirements that will take effect next June, these will take effect at the end of the 2021 school year. Dear Dr. Nash, I would like to take this opportunity to inform you of my plans for retirement from the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District at the end of the 2021 school year. It has been both a privilege and my pleasure to be an educator in this venerable school district since 2001. I consider myself truly blessed to have had this opportunity to work with our outstanding staff and remarkable students. Sincerely, Kathleen E. Pastore. And one more. Dear Dr. Nash, being the principal of Charlton Elementary School is one of my proudest accomplishments. I believe the staff who serve our students at that school are among the finest anywhere. What an honor it has been to serve beside them on behalf of the youngest students in the district. I can say to you with my whole heart, I love CES, my colleagues, the community of Charlton, and this district. That is why it is with mixed emotions that I am submitting this letter as a 2-year notice of retirement. I'm excited at the journeys that lie ahead, but sad to be leaving staff whom I consider family and students who win my heart year after year. I would like to thank the leaders, past and present, for their support during my time as principal of Charlton Elementary School. The district is something special, and I am so happy to have made it my home for so many years. Sincerely, Laurie Pacheco. So, great loss for all 3. All 3. And that is it.
It's really sad. It is a big loss. Okay, do any members have communications? No. I know, it's really sad that we have good people. Yeah, it is.
It's gotta be crying for 2 years. You can't cry for 2 years.
I will
Wanna make
say,
them back?
in order to lighten the mood for Mrs. Reed,
That's
Mrs.
3 like heavy hitters
I
right there.
know.
Wow.
Mrs. Rawson, I talked to her recently, and she had mentioned that she was considering it, and my son Cameron is headed to Heritage this fall, so she was excited to be able to at least interact with him on her last year, so that's a plus.
Yeah. But all 3,
All
they
3,
were all great
absolutely, absolutely,
employees.
yeah. Our best wishes to all 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the members do not have communications? Okay, and we all did get just one online, and it was from Mrs. Costigian, and I did refer it to Dr. Nash and Mr. Matthew, and they'll definitely address it. Okay?
It's not about that, so
Yeah.
if you'd like to address it.
I do have one thing, actually. I received in the mail the information for the MASC conference. I don't know if everybody else
Yes.
did, but the early bird,
Get,
Um,
right.
Not special.
not the
I
special.
was thinking food.
Sign up, yeah.
The sign-up is by July 15th, if anyone is interested.
And it's discounted if you do it
Yeah.
by July 15th.
I'd like to try to attend, being one of the newer ones
Oh,
on the
good.
committee.
And so you can, anyone that's thinking it over, just call Sandy and let her know, and she'll send in the reservations, right, Sandy?
I'll be in touch.
And you wanted something,
I
Jan?
have no question. I'm just wondering where we stand with the kindergarten teacher addition into the Charlton Elementary School.
That has taken place.
Okay.
Mrs. Gajewski will be moving over to CES.
How do you spell?
Oh, you had to ask
No,
that.
that's okay.
G-A-J-E-W-S-K-I.
Kimberly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other?
And I'm sorry, and to follow up to that, I've been asked, my son's coming into that kindergarten class, so I know a lot of people in that class, where the classroom is going to be in that school. Do you know that?
I do not know, Mrs. Pacheco, I would know that. so she-
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is the aide coming from Dudley-Charlton? The instructional assistant will be the same aide? Instructional
That's it.
assistant.
That's an
Okay.
additional, that's a new class.
Has that been person hired?
That, I am
Just give
not sure.
Mrs. Pacheco.
Oh, I will, yeah. I just didn't know if she.
I think we had a transfer from,
Okay,
internal
change it,
transfer,
okay.
right, and
So
so
it's all
then,
set.
then someone will have to be hired for that position.
Okay, it's
I
all
just
set
don't
then.
know who it was now.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, superintendent's report, Dr. Nash?
I do not have any special report this evening.
Okay. Student rep report, and this evening, we'll just table it. New business, Director of Finance and Operation report, Rich?
Thank you very much. The Charlton Middle School Sunshine Club, the teachers here at Charlton Middle School, the staff here at Charlton Middle School, donated $363.44 to help offset student lunch deficits for the school.
Very nice.
It is a statement of the special sauce that is Dudley-Charlton that we've been talking about. Additionally, not included in writing on this report, we did receive a notice of a donation from the Dudley PTO to Dudley Elementary School for a total of $1,950 to be used to purchase 6 iPads with cases.
And it's not in the report, though,
That's
so we
correct.
added it on.
that's to Masonry?
No, Dudley L.
Dudley.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve and accept the donations that Mr. Matthew has described.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. The food service director, Matthew Greenberg, has requested some kitchen equipment be declared surplus. You have a listing of the items in your packets. Some items that are unused or items that are marked as unused are not in the current production facility in the kitchen. They're back in storage rooms. The intention here is because some of the things may have some intrinsic value. We're going to try to trade them in for pieces of equipment that we could use. Anything that isn't traded in will end up being scrapped. That's probably the best value.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that, I just asked one question. What is the buffalo chip?
I believe that is a chicken chopper that is designed for in Buffalo, New York, specifically for buffalo wings with buffalo sauce, and I'm buffaloing you in this response.
Good thing it isn't a buffalo.
What is it called?
I was going to say, we have plenty, so if we want to experiment on them, clearly not an item that's in production here at the school
Right, that's so
currently.
funny.
I'll entertain a motion to declare surplus, the list that Mr. Matthew has attached to this.
So moved.
Paper.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion? Seeing none, all in, do we have a discussion? No.
The milk cooler that's not working at Charlton Elementary School, we're going to find another one or replace it, or? No. Sorry, I mean that for real. So what is our game plan there? We're gonna have to come up with funding to support that need, or that will come out of the revolving fund?
That'll come from food service.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to understand the process.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. I think at one point in time, the most wonderful part of the year, the favorite school committee meeting was the FREC bids, when supposedly they used to hand out ice cream.
Yeah.
They have not done that in my tenure here, so unfortunately,
They never did.
well, Mr. Chalk owes me an explanation for that joke.
We were hoping.
You all received electronic copies of the FREC bids. This is cooperative bidding that we do with any number of other school districts, depending on the area. The French River Education Collaborative has been running these bids for a long time. There are 9 separate bids before you tonight. School supplies, custodial supplies, computer supplies, athletic supplies, copy paper, bread and rolls, non-food paper supplies, and market basket frozen items. I recommend acceptance of these bids.
Yeah, so do you mind if I just take them all in one vote? Anybody against any of them? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept all the bids that Mr. Matthew brought forth.
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. And just a quick update on the Dudley Middle School cooling tower. We did receive quotations in. The lowest responsive bidder was Renaud from Sutton, Mass. The cost of the tower with installation, all in, will be $83,000. So a little bit higher than we were anticipating, unfortunately, but I still expect we'll close out basically in the same position that we had anticipated before.
Thank you, Rita.
Sorry, question.
Go ahead.
Just wondering why, did we have any sense of why it was higher than we thought?
We're a little further into the production season. The initial quotes were, from about a month or so ago. They weren't actual quotes, they were, back of the envelope. Oh, it could be about this type number.
I see.
So,
I was just curious.
When you do this particular bid process, you follow the state contract, so it's the state contract price plus a percentage. So it's not, this process wasn't the same as an open bid, so.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Yep.
All right, moving right along, consideration to approve job description for Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning.
Yes, you have in your packet not a resized, but a revised job description based on the feedback from the last school committee meeting. Highlights of the changes that the committee had discussed are captured for you in my memo to you. We redid this so that it mirrors the template from Mars. We also melded the content from both job descriptions. Where there was replication, we eliminated, in particular, around all of the bullets for the job responsibilities. We also changed the position title, just inverting it, teaching and learning, instead of learning and teaching. And we did add language that indicates the assistant superintendent would be in charge of the district in the absence of the superintendent. And finally, wanted to make sure that we ensured that the major or the chief responsibilities of this job include leadership around, in the district leadership around curriculum instruction, assessment, and professional development. So I will entertain any questions you may have around this job description. If the committee approves it this evening, then we anticipate posting it tomorrow on the website.
Does anyone have any questions before we take the vote? Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the job description for the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
you were saying posting it tomorrow? And what is Mr. Lamarche's opinion on this process?
I don't know what his process will look like, but he knows that we would be posting it tomorrow, as soon as we can. Right, yes.
Yeah, I
Yep.
assumed he did,
Yep.
I just wanted to.
Yes. I think his
Okay.
time frame is probably going to take you somewhere. If you post it and you have a closing date, maybe, mid-July or so, that will be in keeping when he's really, will have some time near the end of July to put together a committee. I'm sure he'll share with you at that meeting, probably on the 24th, I'm thinking, in July, what his process would be at that time. So realistically, my sense would be that if you're filling it, you probably are going to hope to have someone be able to start the year. It depends if it's an internal person. You run the risk of having to fill their position, and it could be, near the end of the summer. And if it's an external person, they usually have to give some kind of notice. But there'll be a transition, I'm sure. He has spoken with Mrs. Matarosian, or through me, to see if she can assist in the transition. We also have, Mrs. Aries has been assisting also, so I think we'll have a smooth transition to ensure that what we're doing this summer will be able to continue as we move forward, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
About the salary, are we gonna put negotiable, or we gonna put any range, or what are we gonna put in the end?
That will be probably up to how Mr. Superintendent Lamarche, you have, as you know, up to $120,000 in your budget. And so I think, he may have some discussion with you on that, particularly as he moves forward in the process, right?
So in the end, tomorrow, we won't really put in, we'll just say
Generally,
negotiable or something like that.
I've not seen as often seeing that as much as I've seen probably superintendent salaries, but,
So just leave it out.
yeah, I think you're
Okay.
fine. I think people who are really seriously interested may call, particularly if they're moving for a lateral move. If they're moving from an assistant superintendent, let's suppose they're moving because they want to be closer to home, they want to be in this district, but they're already an assistant superintendent somewhere else, they may pick up the phone and call, because they're not going to apply
Right.
if it might mean a major reduction in their salary, unless they simply want to make a move for whatever reason. So generally, people will ask, but you can put the salary in or not. This will be an appointment that the superintendent will make. So. But you
we'd
know
have
what
to
you
leave
have
it
in the
out for
budget.
now,
Yes. Yeah.
And this position will be posted both internally and
Yes,
externally?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Any other discussion? No? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Okay.
Consideration to appoint Director of Pupil Personnel Services, Dr. Nash?
Yes, you approved this position, I think, a couple of meetings ago, and I bring forward this evening, we posted the position. I bring forward, as you know, we will be eliminating the special education director position, and this is the position that will replace it. You have received a letter of interest from the current special education director, Mrs. Allen. I would recommend to the school committee that you appoint Mrs. Allen as the new Director of Pupil Personnel Services for the district, obviously with the elimination of the Special Education Director position.
I'll entertain a motion to appoint Lorinda Allen to the position as Pupil Personnel Services.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion? Any more discussion, Jamie?
Was she the only applicant?
Yes.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
I have a conflict of interest, I need to abstain.
Oh, okay. So we have 6 in favor and 1 abstaining, okay? Consideration of requests for first-time use facilities.
Yes. You're moving so
We're
fast, I
moving.
can't keep up with this.
You go out with a bang, Dr. Nash.
Oh, we'll see, we'll see, all
That's what-
right?
That's what my intention is, isn't it?
You have in your packet a request from Robert Durwood of the Central Massachusetts Youth Wrestling Club, who is seeking to use the gymnasium beginning on June 27th, which is tomorrow, through of this year through next June of next year, 2020, looking to use Shepherd Hill High School, approximately 12 participants. He is looking to use it for up to 2 days, a week after school, when school is in session, time to be determined, and then certainly during the summer. And approval of dates and times would certainly need to be
Scheduled,
under the athletic director, who will first look at the availability, so.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the first-time facility use. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I just have a question. Why is it coming to us so late?
I don't know, because other than we received it late, I have no idea, Mrs. Antochi, why it came so late.
If I may.
Yeah, maybe.
If I may.
And it's tomorrow.
The application did not have an end date on it when it was first submitted.
Okay.
As a result, it wasn't brought to the school committee at its last meeting.
Okay. So they may not be starting tomorrow.
And-
Originally said the
and-
12th, they changed the date from the 12th already.
And we
Yeah.
know that the facility is available when they want it, or we don't know this yet?
Well, that'll be up to the athletic
Athletic
director
director.
to schedule
Right.
availability
And
and
if
alert
they-
them as to when
Yeah,
it is.
suppose he doesn't have it that week, you know?
If-
Then they can't
there's
do
no
it, right?
availability.
Yeah,
Right.
because the school comes first.
Can I ask, how much are we charging?
It's a nonprofit group, so assuming that there's going to be a custodian already there, there wouldn't be a charge. If there's no custodian there, then that's a different story.
Okay, and our activities take first precedence?
Yes, always. Yep.
Any other questions?
I think it's exciting that it's gonna be offered. I
Yeah.
think that's something that's gonna be cool for our kids.
Yeah. Anything else? All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Okay.
Also, consideration to waive policy
C, Shepherd Hill Teacher of Physics. Go ahead. Dr.
I'm sorry.
You took over.
I
You
know.
want me to chair.
Trying to rush you through this. No.
I'm trying.
I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. School committee policy that you have regarding substitute teachers, Section D states that the superintendent has the ability to place a full-year substitute or a long-term substitute on a different per diem in extenuating circumstances with school committee approval. I am requesting that the committee vote to waive the per diem rate, which is $260 to allow, per day, to allow Principal Chaplin to hire as a long-term sub for the full year. This is the gentleman who will replace Mr. Savage. Kurt Savage, you granted a leave of absence for the year. He is a biology teacher on leave. Because of the enrollments that we have in physics, we need to add a physics teacher instead of a biology teacher. So Mr. Chaplin went out and had no applicants except for one. That's how tough it is to get a physics teacher. So the gentleman who he has interviewed and whom I met is coming from a permanent position, similar to, you may recall, last year when we hired similarly a chemistry teacher, when one of our teachers was out for long-term leave for the entire year, and he actually left a permanent position and came knowing that this position was only available for the full year. Subsequently, the teacher in the permanent position did retire. So the gentleman, Mr. Donlin, is now the permanent person in the position, so it did work out for him. But Mr. Villani realizes that he is in a position as a long-term sub for the full year. The issue is that currently, as a teacher in another school district, he is making over $80,000 a year, and certainly, well, he wants to come here and be to this district. He cannot do it, as he told me, for $260 a day. You have in your budget the salary that was for Mr. Savage is exactly the salary that I could offer him, which is the and that equals the per diem 427.28. So in essence, it would be, unfortunately, no savings. However, we would be able to avail ourselves and students of having another physics teacher for the year.
So I'll entertain a motion to waive policy GCG for the Shepherd Hill teacher of physics.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion?
I have a discussion.
Kathy?
I just want to make sure that, he moved from one job to Maynard, from Gardner to Maynard, and has been there for 2 years. I wanted to make sure that he was, still hired in Maynard?
He is.
He is.
Yes.
So it's not an issue.
He is presently employed, it's my understanding. I did not ask him that specifically, but he is presently employed, as far as I know, in Maine as a teacher when the references were called.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Consideration to request increased stipend for audiovisual coordinator, Dr. Nash?
Yes, you have a letter from Mr. Earl, who obviously is here this evening. And again, expressing his interest in continuing in the role as audiovisual coordinator for next year. It's a position that I believe you do appoint annually. The position and the stipend that covers this position, which I believe is $7,000, covers 20 meetings. Mr. Earl would be looking to ensure that when you have more than 20 meetings a year, that he would also be paid for those. I certainly think that that is not an outrageous request, and that we should be paying him for any meetings above and beyond the school committee meetings typically scheduled for the year. So, and that's at $350, which is roughly what the 20 meetings into 7,000 equate to.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this salary for Mr. Earl.
Second.
Any discussion?
Does a good job.
Does a good job. All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Consideration to request for leave of absence. Okay, Dr. Nash.
Yes, you, as the committee knows, you had in your packet, I think, a few meetings ago, a request from Mr. Kevin Foley for a leave of absence for health reasons under Article 15, Extended Leaves of Absence, Section F. At a prior school committee meeting, I believe the committee, because I wasn't there, but I read the minutes, the committee postponed taking any action until receiving some medical documentation from Mr. Foley's physician. You have received that. That is in your packet. We obtained, obviously, a medical release to obtain this information, and you have that information. So the committee has what it has requested this evening.
So, who would like to speak first on it?
Should we be going to executive session where it's?
No, we'd have to have Mr. Foley come in with a lawyer if you wanted
Well,
to.
the request is really to grant or not
Yes.
grant a leave of absence based on the medical reasons, and I think if I remember correctly from the last meeting, or the meeting that I was not present at that point, I was, understood that the committee requested some additional medical documentation. I contacted
We did get
Mr.
it.
Foley, and he signed a release, and we were able to do that. You do not have anything that would be in violation of HIPAA in your folder. You have simply the comment that were made in answering the 4 questions around fitness for duty, if you will.
Mrs. O'Connor, would it be proper to ask Mr. Foley if he'd like to come up and speak on it?
Absolutely, he's here.
Would you like to speak on it?
Would you like to come up?
Aye.
How you doing? Do you have anything to add to
Not really, I just like to continue on, leave that door open potentially to be able to come back, and for now, keep it as a leave of absence and extend that out. They did vote me in as president again, so that would allow me to be president of the union for one more year. And that's otherwise I probably wouldn't be pursuing it.
And I do believe, Kevin, if I might, you had also submitted that you'll be retiring at the end of next year.
That's correct.
Right, so I have that, and that was not in there because at that point, we had just received it, so.
I don't know if this is a public question. Have you used up all your sick time?
Oh, Leah.
That's, I just wanted, I wasn't sure, because I don't know the history of it.
No, actually, the long-term disability that I negotiated 3 contracts ago I'm the first one to actually put in for it. So that's really where I'm on. So I'm not costing the district in that respect.
I mean, you don't have any sick time left, that you could go into sick time?
So you're on disability right now?
Right.
Is that continuing next year also? Or do you know that? Is it a year-to-year decision?
As of now, it is. I mean, they review your cases. I was told.
Whether you get the leave of absence or not, you're still on the disability.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? We had, according to the contract, it's only for 1 year, correct, in our contract?
The leave request?
The leave request?
For medical?
Right, for medical?
Yes.
Okay, and what's our current rate that we pay on the health insurance
Currently?
for medical on a leave of absence?
75/25.
And then if we don't give them the leave, then it would be 50/50, am I right? Correct?
Only if you retired.
No.
Oh, you'd have to retire to stay on the insurance. So if you retired, if you didn't get the leave, the other alternative is to retire. You don't have to collect your retirement, just retire from here and you're on our insurance. You can
Correct.
wait if you wanted to collect your retirement in 2 or 3 years.
No, I probably
whatever.
wouldn't wait.
Yeah,
I'd probably just,
right.
In your mind, you think you could come back next year?
it's unknown. I really don't know.
Am I confused? Didn't you say you're gonna retire next year?
I had put in to retire. I'll be 63 next month. I'll be 64 at the end of the next school year. I was a late starter. I'd probably have to be about 80 years old to so I knew that was never in the picture. Just my back surgery just kind of precipitated things in a different way.
And you have a choice, even if you retire, not to collect your retirement. If you're on disability, you can collect it when you're,
Actually, if I retired, I would probably just throw all the,
Right.
just say that's it, and I would give up the presidency. I would,
and retire.
and just retire, and I've got enough quarters and in Social Security. I'm one of those people
Oh.
I'm on both sides of the
Yeah.
fence.
So they'll make up the difference if,
That would make up, I've already been to Social Security to see what they would say.
So is the point of asking for leave of absence basically to secure your job in case you got better? Is that what your,
That
that
to
is your goal?
maintain, that and to stay as president of the union for one more year. I was expecting to be someone to be replaced, but it didn't turn out that way at the May elections. We ratified the contract, and they would like me to be president for one more year, so in order for me to do that, I would have to be an active employee. So it's kind of a,
What year are you planning on retiring?
I would be done at the end of the
This coming.
next school year.
1920, the
19
incoming.
The 1920 school year would be,
1920, right.
would effectively be my retirement date.
My concern is not, while I respect Mr. Foley has been like a dedicated teacher, I'm worried about the precedent that we're setting to go against our contract that we negotiated. I don't know how everybody feels about that, and that other teachers could now.
We're talking about the contract that we just ratified, or before that, we didn't have it,
Before
but
that,
now
it
we
didn't
do.
say anything?
I can
No.
find it.
not to that point,
It was
right?
here, there's something.
I-
language
no,
didn't
I-
change.
Change that.
No,
No, the language
In
didn't
that, in
change.
the
We always
extended
had
leave
that
section,
same-
which is what this refers to, no language has changed, other than the fact that all extended leaves, well, it did say that some leaves go to the school committee, of which this one does. It says in the future, all extended leaves have to be approved by the school committee, which is typically what happens, that we agree to, but that's the only change. Everything else is the same, yeah.
And the committee did want a medical report, which you got. I mean, that's what you really saw.
I'm going to preface my comments by saying that I have tremendous respect for Mr. Foley. My kids loved him, everybody loves him, and he does a fantastic job as the union president as well. And I just have to take a step back and be objective about the situation, take the person out of it, where I think it's unusual to grant a leave of absence for more than 1 year, and we've already done that. And whether or not someone is the union president really doesn't have bearing on the teaching side of it for the students for this kind of decision, in my mind. And we had asked for medical documentation in order for us to have something to base our decision on. And from what I've seen, it doesn't appear that Mr. Foley will be able to return to his duties as a phys ed teacher. And so I would think that typically when we grant a leave of absence, it's with the expectation that we hope that the person's going to return to that job the following year, and it doesn't look like that is probably going to happen. So I'm really struggling with this decision because I like you so much, and I think you do a great job. I wish that you could come back.
Me too.
I'm just reading the contract. Letter K under 15 says, leaves of absence beyond the initial extended leave without pay may be granted by the school committee. So really, we're not limited to 1 year with the way that, I read that. Does everyone agree? That leaves of absence beyond the initial extended leave without pay may be granted by the school committee. So that's pretty open-ended, isn't it?
Yeah, it
I
doesn't.
thought someplace, yeah. And then it says, there was another thing. Any teacher whose personal illness extends beyond the period compensated may be granted a leave of absence with pay for such time as is necessary for complete recovery from such illness. So that, I guess that's the stickling point. Is there gonna be, I don't wanna put you on the spot, but is there gonna be recovery? The doctor seems to say no.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
don't,
what
I mean,
we're stuck
it's a
with.
it's a back thing, so I don't know. I wish I had a straight answer.
Well, that's the
That's
problem
the
I see,
yeah.
that, I mean, I think you're entitled to, if there's a chance you could come back, but it sounds like from the doctor's report, that's the only question I would have.
So do we have a motion
It's a hard call.
No.
for
I have-
either way?
Through the chair, I have a question. Listening to the comments and all, and I again want to say, it's difficult for all of us, I
It is,
think,
because
because
he is a
of our
great
relationship
guy.
with Mr. Foley.
I understand.
Just help me understand from my fellow committee members or the superintendent and Mr. Matthew, what's the financial impact of the district if we were to grant the leave?
Speak to that.
It's essentially the insurance coverage.
Which is, the district picks up 75%?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that how it works? I
But
just-
also, the long-term sub also is eligible for insurance. So you're paying for insurance for whoever fills, any person who's in a long-term sub position for the year also gets the opportunity to have medical coverage, should they need it or desire it.
Yeah. And thank you for that. And do we have a dollar amount as to what that is approximately for the year?
I believe when we looked at it, the difference between Mr. Foley's salary and the long-term sub was enough to basically cover two family coverages. So,
I'm with
so
you.
the
I'm with
cost of Kevin's salary, the difference to the long-term sub was basically the amount of the coverage for both people.
Okay, thank you.
Now, if you were to retire, he'd get 50%, correct?
Yeah.
So it's really a difference, if you were to retire, it's a difference of 25% in the payment. Basically, that would cost us 25. See the difference?
The district would
If you
pay
retired, it'd be
25% less
50%,
if he retired.
25% we would pick up the cost, the difference in the cost.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you, Mrs. Cavallo.
But he has money to cover both, he said.
But I'm just saying, the
Because, yeah,
financial
but the
difference, regardless of the
financial
money's
is
there or
the-
not, it's a 25% swing.
Right. Jamie, did you have a question?
It's related and unrelated, so bear with me while I go through it. A year ago, when we sat at this table and talked about this long-term sub that was covering the position that you hold, if I recall correctly, our policy did not allow that substitute to qualify to have his children come into the school. That's still set in the policy as I understand it, so is that substitute still the same person?
Yes.
And that policy,
This-
If I may, through the chair,
go ahead.
The substitute was a long-term sub for the year, was given a letter by the district saying that his time was up
Right.
with the district as employee.
So you would-
His employment for that position at the end of the school year. He'll be able to reapply once we have final verification on what the committee is going to do for Mr. Foley.
So if the committee approves the leave, then we would post for a long-term substitute for the school year.
which would follow that same policy for
With
anybody.
exactly, the new policy. The new policy sets a per diem rate of $260. So instead of the old policy, which is a little different, and specifies exactly what they get with respect to some of the other benefits.
Meaning that their children would not be eligible.
Yeah, right.
I think one of those kids might be here in school choice. Doesn't he have some in school choice
Just
already?
one was, but
I
I
think
don't.
another might be,
yeah.
the other one getting old enough to be in high school.
I believe so.
But
So he
that's
might be-
really
yeah.
irrelevant
No, I'm
to the
just answering her
conversation.
I understand that. I just wanted to know the completed policy.
Yes, no, but, right.
Yeah.
Will it-
So
Go ahead, Kim.
my question is more contractual law question, and I don't know, like, I have the contract ahead of me, and so F is the one that we're referring to, and that says that a teacher may be granted leave of absence for up to 1 year for health reasons without pay. But then K says leaves of absence beyond the initial extended leave without pay may be granted by the school committee. So which one?
Well, it's a medical leave.
So the
So
because it's
and-
medical.
Right. So
It's
we
only
know
1
it's a
year?
medical leave, it seems to fit there. It says all other leaves, meaning if it's not spelled out, for example, if it's not Peace Corps or
It does
sabbatical.
not say all of leaves. It
Right.
says leaves of absence beyond the initial extended leave without pay.
So I think that's probably simply saying that you can grant more than 1 year,
Okay.
That's what you wanted to know.
for
That's what I
whatever the
wanted to know.
leave might be. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, the language is there, you're right. But I'm assuming since it doesn't specify what type of a leave.
That's the loophole.
It would be any
So-
leave.
That I just.
So you
No,
can,
it's
you
just
can
a-
grant
right.
a leave for more than 1 year. The committee has that ability to do that, right?
Well, I guess my concern is, if we do grant, because this does say we can, we could give it for 10 years if we wanted to. I think it doesn't say there's a limit, does it? It doesn't really limit it.
I don't read that.
It doesn't, but my question, but I think Mr. Foley said regardless of what happens, if you got the leave, you would definitely retire next year. You wouldn't be back again
Yeah.
for a fourth
10
year.
years. If I was gonna be here for 10 years, I'd be teaching.
Yeah, right, exactly, exactly. But I mean, so this would be definitely your last request.
Absolutely. And I know it's unusual.
And you know,
It's difficult
the
for me too to
report-
even ask for it. I don't ask for much, and I.
You don't.
I feel, no, and I don't like asking now. And I have pursued a lot of questions, and I haven't got a lot of straight answers either, as far as even being on long-term disability. I don't know if, how that actually, the legality portion comes into the play with the whole idea that, if that would disappear, I don't know. Been trying to figure things out, so I'm sorry to ask for this, but, I'm just trying to do what I have to do.
Can I ask another question, given what you just said through the chair? If long-term disability were to come back and deny the request that you have in place sometime between now and August or now in September, would that force your hand to retire, and then therefore
Yeah, I would think
this
so.
conversation would be
Yeah,
a
I
different
think-
conversation?
I would think so. I've actually, I'm right now looking for an attorney to explain that very same question, what would happen if this happens? So,
Through the chair, my question earlier about the financial impact on the district, but then, so that was one piece of it, but then what about I go back to the contract again, and it doesn't specifically say only 1 year is allowed, correct, Mrs.
Well,
Cavallo?
it says maybe beyond the initial period, maybe granted,
It does say
Without
1 year,
pay.
but then it gives you the ability to.
beyond the initial, maybe.
Right, and so I guess that's what I'm looking at as, I agree with.
We have
Please.
granted other extended leave, other leave of absences a number of years, but I think mine's a little different, unusual. I know some teachers have put in for leave of absences and have extended them to 2 or 3 years, especially over the last probably 4, 5, 6, 7 years. We've had other teachers leave, and that has occurred. There was a chemistry teacher that went 3, 4 years. Right here in this school, we had an English teacher go for 3 or 4 years. I'm not going 3 or 4 years. I just would, if I'm only asking for 1 year.
But Mr. Foley, with all due respect, you recognize this would be the 3rd year, correct?
It's actually the second, I think, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know, I just need someone to verify.
This is the first time we've officially voted on your leave.
Right,
So
so
if you
it'd
had
be-
1 or 2, we never knew about it,
Right,
honestly,
so
we
it'd
would
be
have
the
it told.
second.
I think this is the third year.
Coming
If
up
you
is the
vote,
third.
if you vote this, you've been
If
out 2
this
years.
gets
Well, the
approved.
first one was I used up all my, it wasn't really
Okay.
leave, I wasn't
Okay.
on
Oh,
leave.
okay.
The first year was actually all my
So-
sick
so
time
you
and
saw
all
your
that
sick
stuff.
time.
Okay, so
That's
you
what I
only
asked.
had
This
1
is
year.
actually only the second time I've
Second.
asked.
See, we didn't get any of those facts till this
No.
past couple of months.
It didn't get to this committee before,
No,
yeah.
no, it
And-
hasn't, I haven't gone that, I haven't put that out there I didn't want to.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. So, first, I want to say thank you to Mr. Foley for recognizing the predicament that we're in. And while I do agree a little bit with Mrs. Carmignani on your comments of setting a precedent, I think maybe we can hang our hat on the contract and say that to allow the committee to make a determination in this matter. That's my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think that gives us enough language to be able to point to that, to say this is how we made our decision. At least that's what I'm looking at. But, thank you.
Can I just say one thing? I wasn't at the last meeting that you guys had the big discussion about it, but I did discuss this with Mary. I feel like because it's never come before us before, this is the first time that we're actually voting on it. And I think it's an injustice to even think about penalizing him when we didn't get in front of us the first time. So that's, and it should have been the first time last year, but it wasn't. So I think that's where I am at
Not his
for
fault.
that. No, it's not his fault.
Right.
Not his fault.
So that's my only thing, and I understand all the concerns, but it didn't come to us before this, so,
That was a lot of our discussion last time.
Yes,
yeah.
We said that.
that's correct. May I make a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion, we approve the extended leave of absence.
Second?
Any more
I
discussion
would
on
just
it?
maybe you want to amend based on Article 15J, just to back up why you did it. I would put that in.
So
there.
moved, yes, sorry,
Article
sorry.
15J.
For the 19-20 school year, referencing
Yep, it's K, excuse me.
Article K in the contract.
Right.
My motion is to extend the leave for school year 19-20, referencing Article K in the contract.
Article 15.
Article 15.
Letter K.
Letter K. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
And second.
Any more discussion?
I just have one comment, and again,
It's
it's separate from you. I think our contract leaves us wide open, and I think, just as Mr. Foley had stated, that we've already set a precedent, we have to be careful that we do not continue to set this kind of precedent. I think that's extremely dangerous. Our contract basically says, yes, we can forever if we want to, but the question is, should we?
Well, my results that this was a bargain on both sides of the committee and the union, and we agreed to that. Whether we like it or not, it's there.
It says we can,
Yeah.
it doesn't say we have to.
Right, but if we can't, if we never could, then why would we even have it in the language? So we must have thought sometime it's justifiable, otherwise would we put that in there, you know what I'm saying?
Understood,
I'm just saying, yeah.
I'm making the point that it's,
Yep, sure.
it's dangerous because, you know, we have to do what makes sense for the district.
Mhm.
And I agree with Mrs. Antossi, and I agree with both, Mrs. Cabral, I agree with both of you. I see both sides of it. It's definitely a tough one, in my opinion.
But I feel very strongly, like Stephanie said, that this has not been brought forth for us to vote on.
Right.
This is our first opportunity to do so.
That's very valid.
And which it should have been, but we didn't know anything about it. And so it didn't come to us. So are we all set for a vote? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. And again, I'm sorry, I apologize to have to bring this to you.
That's okay.
It's not your fault.
Not your fault. But we'll have to fix that after. What we'll have to do is he can't go back to work. Why would you? That's the only thing. Yeah, that's, you know, so we support somebody that can't go back to work. So we're being a good guy, because he's a good guy. Okay, I'm very excited. We're at the end of the meeting.
Oh, my
Yeah, we're getting close.
We're getting close. Okay.
We got our executive session, don't we?
Next meeting dates, I don't think that'll be long either, hopefully.
Yeah, right.
School committee meeting, Wednesday, July 24th. It will be at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School, 7 p.m. Wednesday, August 21st, Charlton Middle School, 7 p.m. Policy Review Subcommittee will be Thursday, June 27th, and that's going to be at the Charlton Middle School?
It is,
Okay, and
I'm glad you
it's,
reminded me.
yeah.
and it's at 8 a.m. Future agenda items, are we going to think of any between now and the end of July, that we've got all that time to think of something, okay? Unless somebody wants to say something.
Oh, school choice, how are we doing there? That's something that we
We'll
can
put
talk
that
about.
on.
Yep.
Anyone else?
The agenda just states August 21st, 2018, just to clarify.
We're going back to the future.
I love that movie.
Okay,
And
that's it.
anyone? Dr. Nash?
I'm trying to remember what we had. We had a list of things that. for-
You'll think of it.
Yes, I will.
You'll send it
One
out.
of the things I brought up before was to meet at all the buildings, like once throughout the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to have like a tour of the buildings before school starts. I don't know, I know hasn't been done lately, but I think we should meet in all the buildings once throughout the year. But I don't know if that should be an agenda item for discussion.
No, well,
or-
we can schedule it, you know, we used to
I
do
know that
that.
takes logistics with the principals and with video and all that, so. But that's just my only,
Why don't we discuss it?
Everybody want to do that? No.
No.
We're all such old people.
I don't either. I don't want to, but you toured it.
no, I did, but I just
Now
think,
you're forcing us to go.
yes.
Doesn't our policy say where the meetings are? Does our policy say?
Yes.
So we'd have to suspend our policy for every one of those meetings.
We used to
Right,
years ago.
yeah. I just think it would,
You
even
lost,
Dr.
Kenny.
Nash had a suggestion about, what's that?
Building tour in the summer,
And I guess for
before the
the,
opening of school.
that, yeah, I don't know.
That has occurred last year.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, a lot of times you do that, you know.
Well, that's what I
Yeah,
mean, so I
right.
know, so if the
Do
committee,
a
I get
quick
outvoted,
walking
that's
tour.
fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
You're
If you
outvoted.
can get to-
Sandy,
Creatures of habit, Kenny, we're not.
anytime that you have time, we have new members now. Could you make a list like you usually do with their email addresses, their personal if they want to give it? Cell phone number, telephone numbers, okay? So if we want to communicate, we'll have all that information. Thank you, Sandy. Okay, that brings us up to executive session. We're entering into executive session this evening to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. We will reconvene into regular session. If we need to take votes, we will, and then we will adjourn. Now I'll take a roll call. Jamie?
Yes.
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 Yes. Stephanie?
Yes, with the 9 o'clock.
Ken? Yes.
A disclaimer.
We're in executive session.